everything. We're super happy to be here today for this live discussion panel sponsored by the Psychology Club. We appreciate your time, and we want to especially thank the instructors who are here today to answer our questions. Before we start, I wanted to share with you our goal today is to talk about and address students' concerns and questions before class starts, and also to connect with our professors in a way that we usually can't because of the online learning style that we are using right now. So we know that these past weeks have been, months even, have been challenging for everyone. So we want to recognize that both professors and students are working towards the same goal, and we all have the same personal and professional challenges right now. So I guess we're ready for the next slide. Yeah, so my name is Lucia Rivas, and I am the Psychology Club president. I am a psychology and human resource management student, and I'm in my junior year at Metro. Now I'm going to introduce Chrissy West. She's our Psychology Club treasurer, and she will talk a little bit about housekeeping and the agenda for today. So there you go, Chrissy.
Thanks, Lucia. So our agenda for today, we're just going to quickly go through some webinar housekeeping, make sure everybody's tech is working, talk about chat, things like that, to make sure everybody's on the same page. We're going to give you some general information about Psychology Club, which is what the group that's presenting this to right now. And we're gonna, after that, we're gonna talk about the Psychology Lab and a lot of really good information on Psychology Lab. Then we are gonna do our panel member introductions, which are our professor introductions. That should be pretty fun. Then we'll go through our presentation. We have 10 questions that we're gonna ask our panel. And they're all about just how to survive in school, and they should be really, really relevant and good for what we're all going through right now. Finally, we'll do a student Q&A. So if there are any questions that come up during the process of the webinar, we will go through them at the end and answer them live as best we can. And then we will just close out after that. So housekeeping, so attendance. Attendance for us is going to be tracked through that Google form. So if everybody could go in there and please add your name. Attendance for us as a group, as a student club, the more we can prove good attendance for our events, the more likely we are to be able to produce bigger and better events and more often for you in the future. So please go on there and add your name and your Metro State email address. And we'll remind you once again before the end of the webinar. So submitting questions during the webinar. If you want to ask a question during the webinar, go ahead and do that in the chat. We are going to wait until the very end during the Q&A session before we answer any of those, just because they may get answered as we go through. So you can wait till the end to ask those questions in the chat. You can also do them during the chat. Just know that we probably won't address them right away. I believe everybody is on mute already, aside from our panelists, so that's great. If you have any technical or audio issues, go ahead and use that chat. Our secretary, Pearl, is going to be working through those with you. So go ahead and put those in the chat, and then she'll work with you to try and get that fixed for you if she can. We are recording this session so that it is available for everybody to watch afterwards. So we'll make sure when you put your email in that attendance that you'll be able to get this link, and it'll also be in Engage too, and we'll talk more about Engage and that platform in just a little bit. This PowerPoint presentation will also be available as well. So if there's some information or somebody's name or email address that you didn't capture right away as we're going through this, we'll make sure to send this out so that you're able to get that information afterwards. All right, Lucia is going to, is this right? You're talking about Psychology Club?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we wanted to introduce the members a little bit and talk about the Psych Club before we start. So I already introduced myself for people who are just joining us. I am Lucia. I'm the president for the Psychology Club. Just now, Chrissy West was talking about the agenda, and she is the treasurer. And Barbara, she's the vice president. She's gonna be talking about the psychology lab, and also Pearl, who is a little behind the scenes today. She's working with you on the chat, as Christy mentioned. So we are all psychology majors, but you definitely don't have to be a psychology major to join the psychology club. All majors are welcome, and we hope that you can access Engage. If you're new at the school and need more help with that, we can definitely do that for you. You're gonna have the links to Engage and to our email and all the contact information in this presentation, and also in the chat while we are talking about it. Barbara's gonna share with you, so you can access that. Every student at Metro has already an Engage account, so you sign in with your STAR ID and your password, and then you just look through the organizations and you find the Psychology Club and just follow us to get all the updates and the information about our monthly meetings and events. We are always gonna be promoting any kind of event. Like this time, we're gonna do announcements on D2L, emails, where you can share it through our professors and also Engage. So keep an eye out. We are gonna have monthly meetings every month for the rest of the year. So we usually are gonna be on a Wednesday on the second week of the month. So keep an eye out for those. And yeah, and we would love to hear from you. So if you want to write to us about events that you would like to see in the future, or if you have questions, or there's some resources that we can find for you, that's great. You can just write to us to the Psychology Club email or to our personal emails, which are also gonna be shown later. So I think now we can hear from Barbara, who's gonna talk about the Psychology Lab and all the resources that we have there for you. Go ahead, Barbie.
Hi, my name is Barbara Ovalle, and I am the Vice President of the Psychology Club, and I am also a student worker at the Psychology Lab. I wanted to hop in and give you guys a little bit of information about the Psych Lab and its available resources. I really think everything that we have to offer comes in handy when you have any questions or if you're struggling with any assignments. So the Psych Lab moved to the Midway campus earlier this year. It's located on the 3rd floor, and it's room 378A. There we assist students with research projects and psychology coursework. But due to the pandemic, for the fall semester, the Psychology Lab is going to be offering these services through Zoom. So each student worker has their own personal Zoom link, and that will direct you to their personal Zoom meeting room. Tutoring schedule and tutor availability can be found on our blog or on our Facebook page, which I will link down below. Just a friendly reminder that you want to prepare for any scheduled meeting, or if you're hopping in for assistance, by completing the assigned reading and reading the assignment instructions. Additionally, the Psychology Lab offers free poster printing, and SPS has demos on their daily blog. Hopefully in the near future, you can stop by and check out available resources, materials, instruments, or even participate in one of our ongoing studies. For more information, please contact Rachel Hagen, preferably by email. And thank you all for being here today, and I'll pass it over to Chrissy.
Chrissy, you're muted.
Thank you. So here is the information for the Psychology Lab, the Zoom information. This will come in helpful when we send out this PowerPoint afterwards, so that you can have all that contact information. we will also have this here. So the blog website and then the Facebook page for Psychology Lab. So thank you, Barb. All right, so we are going to get started with our panelist introductions. I think we will first start with Mark Stassen. Let me just pull up some folks. All right. Mark is a psychology professor. He is also the psychology department chair and also the advisor for Psychology Club. Mark, let's go through. We have some get to know you questions. Let me find them really quick. All right. So Mark, do you want to talk about how long you've been teaching at Metro? And where you went to college?
Sure. I guess I realized today that by the end of the term, I will be at 20 years at Metro State.
Nice.
I started in January 2001. Before I came here, I taught about 12 years at a place called Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. I got my bachelor's degree at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I was a double major in sociology and psychology. So it's not surprising that I am decided to become a social psychologist, and I got my master's and PhD at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana.
What classes are you teaching this year?
So right now I am teaching social psychology, and that tends to be the only class I've been teaching because as department chair, a lot of my time is spent on the bureaucracy, like how to, and like things like getting a new section of Psych 407 added in one morning.
Nice.
I guess I consider that a huge success. So
Nice.
My standards are low.
So what was your first job ever?
Like cutting lawns for people.
Okay.
Is that a job? I don't even know.
How about
So I guess I was a bit of an entrepreneur. I would cut lawns for old ladies,
nice.
people
Nice.
who could afford to pay me,
Nice.
whatever. I think delivering newspapers, does that count? Another job that's gone by the wayside, or at least kids don't tend to do it much anymore.
Yeah.
Janitorial work. I worked at a drive-in movie theater. I delivered pizzas. God, I did a lot of janitorial work. I don't know. I kind of liked it. It was the middle of the night. You could just kind of work out alone. Didn't really conflict with too much. A cook. I was a cook for a long time.
Nice.
I don't know. I guess I had all kinds of stuff.
Mark, what was your first job out of college? How did that change after you got out of college?
After I got my PhD, I got hired as assistant professor at Virginia Commonwealth University.
Okay, gotcha. August, did you want to say something?
I was just curious what kinds of things Mark cooked.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I worked at a pizza place, so that was mostly pizza. And then I worked as like a short order cook for breakfast. So a number 9, 2 eggs over easy with hash browns and wheat toast. The only thing I didn't want to do was eggs basted. I hated that.
Oh, okay. All right. Good to know.
Yeah, don't ask me for basted eggs.
The next time you're over, I'm going to have you make some poached eggs for us.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Nice. Well, that's great, August. I think we're going to move right to you. So August is a psychology professor. He is currently on the move out to some service work that he's doing today. August, do you want to tell us about your career at Metro and
Sure.
how long you've been teaching there?
Yeah, thank you. If we kind of pop in and out, we're en route to Red Lake, and we do have one of our students, Rick, is going to help us plant some trees also tomorrow. Started Metro State in 2008. My undergraduate work was done at University of California, Santa Barbara. My graduate work was completed at UCLA. in 1995. My first job, I think I wrote down, was actually at a McDonald's, believe it or not. Serving up cheeseburgers and cleaning what they called lot and lobby, just wiping up the tables and that kind of stuff. Out of grad school, my first job was actually an adjunct faculty at East Los Angeles College in Monterey Park, California. And I taught for a number of years as a adjunct faculty. And then my first tenure track position was at Compton College in Compton, California, which was a great experience. And I taught there for 10 years. And then we transitioned to the upper Midwest, and I was awarded the position at Metro State, which is where I've been at since. And I just enjoy doing a lot of community engagement projects, green space, volunteer projects, and so forth.
Nice. What classes are you teaching this year?
You know, I am fortunate. I'm actually on sabbatical. So
wow.
I know. I'm off the radar. So this semester, it's going to be hard for me to kind of slow down and disengage because, you know, when you're teaching and doing all kinds of stuff, you're busy. So I'm going to be focusing my work on my sabbatical work is actually green space or planting fruit trees in indigenous groups. Last month we did Fond du Lac. This weekend, the Red Lake Tribal Nation. And we're going to try to get to the Lower Sioux in probably a month. And then write up our experiences on how stewardship activities help bring people together, also teaching people the benefits of green space benefits. So that's what I'm going to do for January.
Very nice. Awesome. Our next professor is Paul Lyson. I don't know if Paul made it on today. Paul, are you with us? All right. So we'll go on to Kimberly Halverson. She is a psychology associate professor. Kimberly, do you want to give us a quick breakdown of your time at Metro?
Hi, everyone. So I'm a cognitive psychologist, so I mostly teach courses related to that, and then I teach a lot of our research courses most often. So I teach cognitive psych a lot, and sensation and perception sometimes, and research methods, and a lot of sections of Psych 200, the fundamentals course.
And how long have you been at Metro?
7 years?
Okay.
6 years? Maybe 6 or 7.
And where did you go to college?
I did my undergraduate degree at Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota, and then I did my graduate degree at the University of Iowa.
Nice. Very cool. And what was your first job ever?
So first, I guess babysitting. My first actual job where I had to sign papers, I was a Little League umpire for the city of Fargo park boards, and it was great. I don't really know. I think I was they had to I was too young. This was a violation of child labor laws, but my older brother was working there, and so they were like, do you want to just bring your sister every day? And so I would pitch for the little kids and umpire. And half the time they thought I was a player because I was only 14, but that was my first job.
Nice. Very cool. And then how about after college?
So I went right to grad school. I did have my last summer job. I had a lot of different summer jobs, and my last summer right after college, I was a lifeguard, and I was the oldest lifeguard at that time. Most of them were 14, 15, and I was 23 or something. And but then then grad school, and then here after grad school. So
very nice. Very cool. All right, Miss Carrie. Carrie Clayman is a psychology professor. She's also the director of the Graduate with Distinction program. So Carrie, can you tell us about your Metro experience?
My Metro experience?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I've been here for, I'm thinking 11 years. I don't know. It all kind of runs together, but somewhere around there. I made full professor, I think 2 years ago, so that seems about right. I am a social psychologist by training. Did my graduate work at University of Nevada, Reno. And as far as like first jobs, my first paying job was at a place called Funco Land, and it was actually in this dude's basement. And I tested video games that he was, buying and reselling. And they were later bought out by GameStop. But yeah, so for 2 years in high school, I played video games for a job, which was kind of awesome. Kind of
That's great.
The ideal life. A lot of like Super Mario at that time. Nice. I came directly to Metro when I graduated with my PhD, and have been here ever since.
Nice. Very cool. We will definitely be talking about the Graduate Distinction Program later in the webinar.
Oh, awesome.
Because I know that's going to be important for students to know about. Caitlin, I don't know if I have your title right, if you're a community faculty or associate, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Caitlin, do you want to kind of let us know about your time at Metro? And
yes, and you're correct with the community faculty.
Okay,
so,
lovely.
Yeah. I'm Caitlin Schwieters. I have been community faculty at Metro since 2017. So I did my undergrad in psychology at the University of Minnesota. I did my master's at Metro, so a couple years ago. And then I am going to be in a PhD program, a human factors PhD program back at the University of Minnesota. I am currently enrolled in that and starting this fall. I mostly teach research methods and fundamentals. My first job ever was at a dry cleaners, clean and press. I think those are still around. Good after school job. I guess my first job after my master's program was becoming community faculty at Metro.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Caitlin, can you tell us, I don't know that a lot of students know the difference between community faculty and like associate professor or professor. Do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Sure. So I guess community faculty is similar to what would be known as adjunct faculty. So we're not full-time, but I'm still involved with the activities I like to be involved. So I guess that's kind of the main difference. I'm not permanent.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, that's awesome. Now that we know our panelists so very well and what they all did for their first jobs, we're gonna start with our presentation.
Can I?
Yeah.
Jump?
Oh, hi, Glenn. Yes.
Hey, I know I didn't respond to the email invite because I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it, but I mean,
okay.
if you want me to answer questions as a faculty member, I will, but I'm happy to hang out in the background too if you don't want me.
No, we would absolutely love that, Glenn. So Glenn, do you want to go ahead and give us just a little bit of information about your time at Metro?
Yeah, so I've been here since 2006.
Nice.
Before that, I worked for 2 years as a professor at the State University of New York in Fredonia, which is kind of by Buffalo in upstate New York. And that was right after getting my PhD at Utah State University. So I kind of went straight through and did the academic path. My first job, I had forgotten about this job. I was going to say something different, but then I remembered my first paying job was working in my best friend's mom's boyfriend's garage, which sounds shady because I think it kind of was shady. I've used my boss as an example in my abnormal psychology class, so I don't want to give any a lot more details, because if somebody was really good at Googling, they might be able to figure out who this guy was. But anyway, it was a trip. It was a very interesting story. I was introduced to abnormal psychology in ways I didn't expect. It was good times. And I got paid cash under the table, so that was pretty cool.
Very nice.
So yeah,
Very
good
nice.
times.
Glenn, are you teaching any classes this year?
Let's see, I'm teaching 4,000 sections of Psych 407.
Thanks,
So,
Mark.
hey, if you're going to do your application of knowledge, kiddos, you got to sign up for Psych 407. Yeah, so we got 4 sections of that now going in. No, sorry, 5. Carrie's teaching 1 too. So there you go. That's your prerequisite class for application of knowledge. I feel like that's all I do. But in addition, I'm teaching some abnormal psychology as well. I was going to teach clinical psychology, but the university decided to cancel it. So I'm not teaching that. So that's me. I'm also teaching Psych 408, which is basically field experiences for students in psychology. So
very nice. Thank you. We're glad to have you. I'm glad you popped on. Okay, so onto our presentation. So we're going to go through just some common questions.
One more professor joining us.
Do we?
Yes, Susan Rydell is here too.
Oh, Susan, perfect. Susan, do you want to give a little introduction? Maybe.
You should be able to unmute yourself.
Watch.
No.
Okay, all right. How about
There.
that?
Perfect.
Yeah. Hello again.
Hi, Susan.
I was talking to the air, I guess. Well, I don't know what would be interesting. I guess most of you know I've been at Metro State forever. And before that, I was on the faculty at the University of Minnesota in special education. And I got my PhD at the University of Minnesota in psychology. And I think I was one of the lucky ones, because after I came to Metro State, I was given a postdoctoral year and could go to the University of Minnesota as a postdoc in the Center for Research in Human Learning, Cognition, and Memory. So that was great fun. Meanwhile, Metro State was being built from the ground up. And right now, I'm just finishing a section of sensation and perception and biopsychology. And this fall, I'm doing a section of adult development and lifelong learning that some students know as a way to meet the AOK requirement. So more on that later if it comes up.
Yeah, is that AOK? Is that for nursing or is that for something else?
Psychology, application of knowledge.
Gotcha. Awesome. Susan, what was your first job?
Well, my first job, I think I'm sort of in the doing some housekeeping work and cook, sort of like some of the things that Mark was talking about. And I think my first kind of paid job was doing statistics as an undergraduate student. I remember that one.
Nice.
So that was kind of fun.
Very cool.
A little different.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Susan. We're glad to have you on today. Glad you could make it. All right, so we're going to start right off with some questions. I want to make sure we keep us a little bit on time. So these are questions that are presented from students, very common questions that students are going to have. I'm glad, Susan, that you brought up the application of knowledge so we can make sure we touch base on that too. So the first most popular question that we had was, how much should I study? So Mark, do you want to start with that and then we can kind of go around and see?
Sure. Actually, since I got to see the questions ahead of time, I thought the first and second ones went really well together because, it's not just how much should you study, but like how often you should study. And so the question about study habits to me sort of seems linked, because I think people really need to study regularly. There's such a tendency to just wait until a project is due and try to do it in one sitting, or I'll cram for a test and then take it. But, I think it's really important to study regularly, particularly with these online courses and the pandemic. try to schedule times like a couple times a week at least, some regular times. We have no schedules these days, so it's nice to have a bit of a routine. Obviously we say that, you should, in addition to going to class, you should study 2 to 3 hours for each credit hour you're taking. So, it really does add up to 3 or 4 hours per credit. So, Chrissy, you're taking 4 credits, so we want you studying, 16 hours or so. Everyone else is different.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Susan, do you want to comment on that?
On how much you should study?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, the question raised in my mind, the notion that I like to refer students while they're studying to ask for help with writing if they need it, and start early. Don't wait till the end of the semester, and just make it a regular habit, because even if you can write well, you can always learn to write better. And that's going to be one of the skills that as you go forward in your life, people are going to see that writing that more often than they're going to ask you about some factoid that you learned in class 5 years ago or something, because they're not going to ask that, but they are going to say, no, you can write. So I would recommend put some time into the writing when you ask how much you should study. And that helps you learn too.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Is there anybody else on the panel that wants to make a comment?
I could just make one small recommendation that in addition to studying often, using the Center for Academic Resources is a great tool for students for writing skills, reading comprehension, and just test taking tips. And sometimes students aren't aware of all the resources that Metro has available. I've heard a lot of positive things about that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think to piggyback that a little bit, the Psych Lab also has a lot of good resources, especially for psychology students.
I've got
studying.
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No,
but
go
I've
ahead,
got,
Glenn. You're good.
Okay, so one thing I've noticed is that it's the amount of time people crack me up with their ideas about studying, because they go, okay, I've got to study like 10 hours this week, and it's all going to be Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now, what happens then? Let's go through what happens. You wake up at 9 a.m. You snooze a few times. By the time you're done eating breakfast, checking Facebook, whatever, it's 10:30. You study for a half hour. You're proud of yourself for studying for a half hour. So you make lunch. Then you decide suddenly you got to clean your place. So you clean. You're proud of yourself for cleaning. So you have another snack, blah, blah, blah. By the time the day is done, you've studied for like 2 hours. That's a terrible way to do it. Nobody's really going to study for 9 hours at a time. It's not what we're really made to do. So studying for relatively short times frequently is so much more effective. So, even me, like I do a lot of research. I do a lot of writing. I can't sit down and write for 8 hours straight. Like that's miserable. That's miserable, and it's no better for students. So, take your time, do your reading, and eventually what happens is you get tired of it and you go, oh, this is painful. That means it's time to stop. Your brain is actually telling you it's time to stop. So stop, come back to it later. So, study for relatively short times, like half hour to an hour, maybe a little longer if you can power through, and just do that on a very frequent basis. And you'll find that works way better than trying to have study day 1 day a week. That's terrible. So that's my 2 cents.
Yep. I think it's really, really good advice.
I'll add one quick thing. I know, especially in some of the, harder classes, so like a research methods or something like that, there's a lot of times that even online this summer, I had students who got together and did study groups, but I think one of the important things to remember is to try to have an agenda if you're going into doing a study group or, over Zoom or whatever that is, just to help kind of keep you on track. Otherwise you just go in and start and, end up just kind of talking about your life, and then 2 hours have passed and you haven't done anything. So, I highly recommend study groups. I think getting to know your classmates is really important, and being able to bounce your ideas off of them. That's oftentimes when we actually are able to really grasp the material well. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, fair. I think it's really good advice. Paul, I saw that you came in. I know you didn't get to do an introduction, but please just jump in anytime to answer any of these questions. All right, so we kind of touched on this a bit already, but is there any more advice on just good studying habits or time management practices? I know one that I use a lot that Glenn kind of alluded to was, I think it's called the Pompero method, and it's for writing, but you work for 20 minutes and you take a 5-minute break, and then you work for 20 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. And I think you do that 3 times, and then you take a longer, like 30-minute break in between. And that's been so helpful for me, especially with writing, but just even for studying as well, so that my brain can take a break from that material and I feel refreshed when I come back. Does anybody else on the panel have any other, we went through so much good advice on that first question. Does anybody have any more?
Can I give one more? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
absolutely.
I'm being like a time hog here, but since I got a captive audience, I'm like, here we go.
Do it, yeah.
So the other thing is, like, when you're writing, you need to go back and look at your writing. There are so many times when I'm reading student work, and frankly, reading my own work, where I look back and I go, oh yeah, I got to go back and change that. And if you don't review your own work, then you submit things and, you forgot to spell check. You forgot to complete sentences. I will get cliffhangers where it's like, there'll be sentences that say, therefore it is critical. And that's it. Where's the rest of the sentence? So go back and review your work. Always make sure you reread your work. That will save you a lot of pain. So please make sure you review your work. Do it more than once. You got a long paper. Let's say you've got a 10-page paper to write. Like, you should be working on it for short periods of time, as we've discussed. And like, when you start off working next time, go back and rewrite or reevaluate what you wrote last time. And there will always be, a couple little things you can do to make it better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree. I think if you're lucky enough to have somebody around to read them for you before you turn it in, that's also really nice. I know my husband actually read through this presentation before we went through it today to make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah, that's always very helpful too. All right. Does anybody have, yeah.
I was going to recommend the same. I use the Pomodoro technique also. It's my favorite thing, and it sometimes helps me start really big projects because I just tell myself I can do anything for 20 minutes. And that's how I get going. When otherwise you spend a lot of time being like, well, I don't have enough time to study, so I'm not going to start, or whatever it is. And there's a lot of good resources online for like how to use it the most effectively if you have big projects. And I feel like starting a semester where we have all these online courses where we might be getting a lot of like big projects all at once, it can really help you organize and kind of break it up into those little pieces.
Very nice. Awesome. All right. Next question. So, what qualities do successful students possess? Let's see. I'm going to pick on Carrie. Carrie, you want to go first?
Sure, I love to be picked on. One of the things that I think is so important to be successful is to come in with the mindset that you are learning, that you don't already know everything. I think that a lot of times students are like, well, I just read the chapter, I know everything about that. And when you do that, you kind of shut down to, getting feedback or critiques or, some of those kinds of things. I tend to really like the students who ask a lot of questions, who really challenge themselves and move a little bit outside of their comfort zone and realize that is what higher education is really all about, is, growing. But I think aside from those like larger kind of abstract things, going back to the whole studying thing, I think students who put in the time and are able to manage that really well and, juggle very successfully all of the areas of their life are the ones that tend to be successful.
Nice.
So I'll stop there.
Paul, do you want to comment on that at all?
He's muted, I'm sure. I think he's muted.
We'll come back to you later, Paul. Let's see. Caitlin, do you want to comment on that at all?
I mean, I would echo that.
Yeah.
Same thing, just the students that I think are most successful are, yeah, the ones that are asking for more or asking for feedback. I think that's actually one of the really cool things about Metro is you have the opportunity to be in a smaller class and you get more of a chance to connect with the instructor one-on-one, and it goes the same way for the instructors. So yeah, going above and beyond and just reaching out essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. All right, does anybody have any burning desires to add to this question?
Well, at some level, it's the students who consistently show up, do the work, and are able to integrate what they're learning with things that they've read, things that are talked about, and can make connections. And those are the ones who keep moving. They can move themselves ahead after the class. You are pretty sure that they're going to continue. That's the way they are, and they're going to continue in their lives that way.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Kimberly, did you want to add anything?
I was just going to say that I think asking questions, which sounds really sort of obvious, but if you can kind of get to the, open the assignments, figure out what is being asked of you, and if you don't understand early on, seek clarification on that. I think sometimes as professors, I know I'm guilty of sort of assuming a lot that everybody understands however I sort of conceptualize this particular assignment or this specific thing I'm asking for. And it just sometimes a small point of clarification for students can, set them on the right track. And I feel like usually for me that happens kind of after class or when you're sort of everyone's just mingling. And so without those opportunities, I would just encourage students to be a little more intentional about, contacting when they have questions so that you don't spend, I was just talking to a colleague about spending too long researching the wrong thing that isn't ultimately helpful and how to do it. And so just making sure that whatever you're working on, it has the same goal as the assignment. And those can be quick questions, but they can save you a bunch of time.
Very nice. Yeah, I always notice that too in class, that there won't be a lot of questions in class, but then afterwards there's this big long line to speak with the professor. And I wish that students in my classes would ask those questions during class, because I feel like that might be something that I didn't think of or that I would want to know. And so I think having just that, it's tough because I know as a student, I don't want to look dumb. Yeah. That's a fear for me, is I don't want to look stupid. And I think that might be shared with other students, especially, I'm first generation. And so I don't have that college experience in my family. So I think just kind of getting over that part of it and just asking questions anyways, realizing that somebody else in that class is going to be really appreciative that was asked. So
yeah, I think that's a common experience that I've heard from students. And if anybody has any suggestions for me as a faculty for help making myself more available, if helping students sort of move past that fear, because I always tell people, if you have the question, probably someone else does too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So what should I do if I don't like my teacher? Mark, do you want to start this one?
Everyone likes me, don't they? I think you kind of have to figure out why you don't like your teacher. I know sometimes they may be tough on you. For example, maybe they ask you hard questions, but does that mean you shouldn't like them? I think a lot of what other people are talking about, what makes a good student is one that's able to ask questions, but also respond to questions. Someone who, has critical thinking skills, which means that, if they're criticized or, questioned about their work, that they understand their work well enough to kind of push back. And so sometimes, if a teacher criticizes you, it's not that they don't like you and that you shouldn't like them back, but it's like maybe they're giving you that little extra push to help you become better. And I guess it's hard for me to answer this question. I know plenty of people don't like me, so that's not really it. But it's just sort of like you can not like someone for different reasons. And so I think depending on the reason that you don't like your teacher, I'd probably answer it differently. Right. So I just chose one.
Yeah, that sounds good. Does anybody else want to comment on this one? I feel like this is a really juicy topic.
I feel like Glenn would have a good answer for this. Glenn.
Susan, we'll come back to you.
Let me unmute myself. Gee, Carrie. Not sure what to say that I was nominated by you to answer that question. Well, let's see, how do I handle this one in a diplomatic way? I mean, students will, I kind of harken back to what Mark said. I think his response was actually pretty good in that, why you might not like a professor is it's, is the professor just saying things that are, kind of offensive in some way? Is the professor challenging you to do work that you don't like doing? Is there some kind of, is there, you don't like your grade? And if so, like, what, is there a way that can be handled in a way that's like, how would I say this? Is there a way that you can handle that via like clear communication? So let's say you get a grade you don't like. Can you contact the professor and say, hey, let me, help me understand this a little better? And of course, first I would say, read the feedback the professor gives you, right? So sometimes I'll give students, a grade of whatever, and I'll give them quite a bit of feedback. And sometimes a student will say, why did I get this grade? And I say, did you read my feedback? And they say, no. And I'm like, well, I've kind of answered that question. So, if I think it's okay, and as a if there's something grade-wise you don't like, which I think is often one reason that students, might not like a faculty member, might be because of the grade they're receiving. I think asking, for specific feedback can be helpful. Is there, maybe you don't understand exactly what the faculty member wants, or you think you communicated something clearly and it wasn't communicated clearly. So I think that, some communication and feedback might be helpful if that is the reason that there's a problem. But I do think, also faculty want students to get better and are open to, trying to help people in terms of improving their learning. So, for me, I don't mind getting feedback from students that says, hey, explain this a little more. Why did I get this grade? That's fine. That's a legit question to ask. If you get a grade that you don't like and there's no feedback given, I think that's a reasonable question. So anyway, that's anything else I should throw in there, Carrie?
No, I thought that was good. I mean, I will just add to this that, I mean, of course there are certain times when legitimately there is actually a bad instructor. I mean, we all have different levels of experience when it comes to teaching, and how much time, we put into it varies, just like every other job in the world. And there are some legitimate student complaints, I mean, if there is, a professor who, really is not explaining something, or really is not, following through, or doesn't give you a grade for like 6 weeks after you turn something in. I mean, I've definitely heard those stories. And I mean, I guess in those instances, I would just really encourage students to, first reach out to that instructor and say, hey, I've noticed this. I was just wondering if I could get feedback, but try to do it in, a diplomatic way. I will also mention that if you just legitimately don't like a professor based on personality conflict, don't let that interfere with how much you put into the course. I mean, I think we all know that not everybody is going to like us. I mean, that is just part of life. But I think one of the most disappointing things is when you're providing content and having conversations and somebody just stops trying because of you. And I mean, I think this might have happened to me like once or twice where somebody just decided halfway through the semester, hey, I don't like you. I'm going to send you some hate mail. And I'm like, cool, that's fine. But then they started to just drop off in everything else. And I don't want to see that. I mean, even if I don't like you, which you will never know, I'm still going to grade you fairly. Some of the people that I hated as students have received A's. Some people that I have absolutely loved have failed the classes. So try to keep those things separate.
Very good. Susan, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I just have a perspective from teaching in prison. And when you get something like this, which you do get fairly often, and I haven't been teaching myself in prison for quite a while, but it's an attitude that a number of the prison students may have. And my response is, you don't have to like your teacher. You can put up with anything in life for 3 months, once a week, or whatever the time period is. Just cut it, do it. You don't have to, that liking factor is not part of it. Then the other thing is you can play a little game, which is kind of interesting. And that is, why does your teacher like the subject area? So you remove the teacher from the thing. Why does that person like accounting, or some ancient history, or whatever the subject is? Why did that teacher take up that discipline, that field, that course, and why are they doing this? And try to look at it from their perspective, because they're spending this is their life. It's not your life, student. I mean, you're only going to do this for once a week for 3 months. And so, I mean, so those are the little pep talks I have to give to inmates to keep them moving. And they do move because they realize that the benefit of finishing the class is going to be better than just grouching all the way through and quite blaming the teacher why they're going to flunk or whatever they're afraid of.
I think that's really good, Susan. And it's a good life lesson that you don't have to that's life. You don't have to like everybody you work with. You don't have to like, people that you're surrounded by. Very cool. All right. So what if I need extra? Yep. Yes.
I just want to, if I could just chime in very quickly.
August.
I've sat on the Academic Appeals Committee for a number of years, and I will say this, that the single most common concern or complaint that we see with students towards professors isn't so much their style, isn't really even the content. And I would recommend with what's been discussed previously, it depends why the student does not like it. It's emails, it's responding back. And I guess this is maybe more of a message for faculty to students, responding back by way of emails or communication to students who may have questions or maybe are struggling in class. And time and time again, I think that's like the beginning point of a negative relationship, is when students feel ignored or they feel as though their concerns are not being valued by their professors. So
I think that's really good.
Pretty much what I have to say for that.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to do a time check really quick. So we're at 4 o'clock. If you have something at 4 and you need to go, I want you to be aware of that. But if you want to stay and hang out and answer questions, we would absolutely love that. Okay, so what if I need extra help with my coursework? I know we've talked about this a little bit already. Do we want to touch on this a little bit more? There's the Center for Academic Excellence. There's the Psychology Lab. Both have people. I know Center for Academic Excellence has tutors, writing tutors, and other tutors to help. I think there's an online resource as well, but let me know. Go ahead and speak up if you have any other opinions or ideas. Crickets. Perfect. Okay. So now we're going to kind of move on to questions more focused on the professors and about you. So let's start with Kimberly. What inspired you to teach?
Well, you know, I guess this is probably embarrassing to admit, but I think that I wasn't really focused on teaching when I got started on this path. So as an undergrad, I was interested in psychology, and I was also a philosophy major. And for me, the kind of thing that really grabbed me was research. And I started doing some different research things as an undergrad. And, you know, when you talk to your professors, well, this was my experience. I was like, oh, maybe asking my advisors, oh, maybe I should do this or that. And they were like, oh, you don't want to do those things. You want to do what we do. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess so. Because they just tell you about the job that they have. And like, so I was really focused on the research kind of part of it, and went to grad school without actually knowing a lot about how much of the profession would end up being teaching. But it was something that I learned sort of quickly in grad school. And kind of my experience in grad school was people kind of got on different paths sort of early on, doing a lot of research and going on to postdocs and things like that, or spending more time teaching. And so pretty quickly I got interested in the teaching part. And yeah, I think for me it was connecting with the students in grad school, and the experience of talking about the things that we were doing in the lab, in the classroom, and then bringing that back to the lab and kind of keep making those connections and watching how, you know, the current state of knowledge in a field was just sort of evolving like in front of our eyes. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer, but.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Let's go to, how about Caitlin?
Yeah, I think what really inspired me to teach was having professors that inspired me. So, I mean, just being challenged and really encouraged to pursue research interests, you know. So it really, in the end, I think it was just having inspiring teachers that motivated me. And I wanted to really share that with students myself and kind of give them that same opportunity. You know, because I mean, I guess as in even at Metro, really, you know, I just realized I was capable of doing things that I didn't think I was capable of doing. And I think everybody has that somewhere. So I really having the connection with students and kind of trying to drive some type of motivation in for them to pursue something that's interesting to them, and also being excited about research. So yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. Paul, are you, let's give you a try. Are you with us, Paul? Paul Lyson?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, welcome.
I stumbled into the room here. I was being kept out. The member, the meeting ID and the link did not work for me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Our
I'm
security
still not
is
sure
very
how
good.
I got here. So anyway, can I be of any help?
Yes. So what inspired you to teach, Paul?
Well, it was the fact I needed a job. I was let go from Control Data, which was a company, by the way, that was very prominent back in the 1960s and 70s. And teaching was something of interest to me. I had, and ever since then, I've wanted to explore the topics I've chosen, like human factors and artificial intelligence, and to be able to pass that information on to the students and so you get them excited about it like I am.
Very nice. How about August? Unmute August. Oh. Nope, we'll come back. Carrie.
Well, I grew up with a teacher. My dad was actually a high school math teacher most of my life. And then after he retired, went to teach at Anoka Community College and sometimes at North Hennepin Community College. And I think the philosophy that he had is he always wanted to focus on disadvantaged students and really help them carve out a pathway to be successful. And, a lot of students don't come from families with, a lot of PhDs or a lot of masters or even BAs. And, there is some kind of mystery in, I think, the college and university process. So one of the reasons I actually came to Metro State was, and I said this actually in my interviewing, was I wanted to provide some opportunities to students who might not know all of the things that are actually out there for them. And so that was my goal, and that's pretty much what I've been doing since. And that's why I love to teach.
Susan.
Basically, in graduate school, I needed a job. So I was given 3 introductory labs to teach, 3 sections, each with 40 students, but you had your own TA, so that was really nice. And I started off in doing the labs, and every week it was a different subject. Every week, this week we've got rats, next week you're doing goldfish or whatever. And I just loved it. And I found it really exciting. I mean, I was headed for the research track, but after I got into that classroom with all of the students, it was fun. I really liked it. But I'm not telling people my background was lab psych, but it was.
Awesome. Mark.
Yeah, this is a tough question, and I kind of have a lot of similarities, like, when Caitlin said, oh, I was inspired by, the teachers I had. I guess what I would do is I'd probably say that I'm inspired to help other people learn. And I don't know if that's the same as teaching. I could think back when I was a teenager and, volunteering to be like a t-ball coach. In college, I did a lot of this tutoring. They had a volunteer tutor service, and I would tutor students in, statistics and stuff like that. I think someone else mentioned that as well. And I really liked the jobs that the professors had. I was lucky that I was able to get into, graduate courses as an undergraduate, even though I was at this huge university. So I would really meet the faculty very closely, and I really enjoyed their jobs, and I enjoyed their research, and I really thought that the way they kind of worked with students to help them learn and become better is the way that what got me into it. And, and I guess I like Kim, you go to these Big Ten schools and they want you to become researchers rather than teachers. And I always sort of enjoyed the helping other people learn as much as the research, and because research is kind of learning things. And so I really saw those go really, really well together. And I don't know, and I was really lucky in graduate school to have a very part-time teaching assistantship. It was like a second job, working with honors students who were doing their research projects. And so, at a Big Ten university, the faculty members, they kind of supervise undergraduate research projects, but they don't really. And so someone else has to help them with their data analysis and help them actually put their design into practice. And so I had a very part-time job doing that. And I really liked that as well. And so I think, it's all those sorts of things that got me into being a teacher, but I guess I'm inspired to help people learn, including myself.
Nice. Very cool. Glenn?
Well, I don't know if my answer is going to be terribly original, but I had, even my high school psychology teacher was kind of he was a master of the stage. I would say of all the people I had who could entertain a room, this guy was just something else. And then, you know, as an undergrad, I had some really great psychology instructors. That being the case, I thought I was going to be a clinician. That was kind of my end goal. And when I was in my master's program, I was going to get a master's degree in counseling and practice counseling with that. I kind of realized that as I was getting practice doing counseling and had some side gigs where I was doing counseling too, that doing that full time wasn't really going to do it for me. So I wanted to get a job where I could have a little more balance, and I kind of discovered I like doing research. So just, you know, kind of having a job where I can do different things. You know, I get to do research. I get to work with students doing research, which is really rewarding, watching them kind of learn the process and, you know, kind of become scholars themselves. That's really cool. And I really, you know, I guess I've had a lot of good examples in terms of how to teach. And frankly, it was good to take classes from some really bad instructors too, to learn like, oh, I'm never going to do that. So I've just kind of been motivated by a few different forces. And I really like that, you know, when you make a connection, when you can see people, you know, when you're kind of reading their papers as the semester goes on, you go, wow, this is some really cool stuff they're learning. And when you can talk with students and when you can talk with students and just kind of see the learning that's occurred. And sometimes, you know, I've talked to students who have just really like learned more confidence in themselves. And I really love it when that happens, that they, you know, go, hey, I didn't think I could do this. You challenged me. And now I realize I'm capable of more than I thought I was. And that to me, that's what it's all about. That's my most rewarding job experience.
August, are you with us? Do you want to try and answer this one?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think one of the motivational factors that led me to the discipline of teaching is just building relationships with students. I think being provided with opportunities to share our experiences in higher education and to work as partners with students, not only in the classroom, but actually outside the classroom, where we're doing, you know, maybe community service work, really helps people see the relationship between theory and practice. And I guess just generally speaking, helping to make positive changes in people's lives and seeing them take the tools that have been provided to them in the classroom to build a more, I think, meaningful, happier life in the discipline that they've chosen. It really is the most meaningful career, I think, working with students, teaching, and being a professor.
Very nice. All right, so what do you wish someone had told you about college? Let's see, let's go Kim. We'll just go in this, well, I don't know what my order was. It's being random. Kim, do you want to start us off?
Kim's no longer with us.
Oh, she left. No worries. Okay, so Caitlin.
Geez, this is a tough question. I guess I wish that I would have known that there were, I guess I wish someone would have offered more research opportunities for me, maybe in like undergrad, for example. So I guess that's kind of one of the things that I think is neat about having a smaller class size is you have the opportunity to connect with students as an instructor, but I had a good answer for this, and
okay. No worries.
Yeah, I guess I wish that I would have known about more ways to get involved, and that there were different opportunities for me to get involved, especially with things like conferences. So as an undergraduate, being able to attend research conferences, I think is a really great opportunity to expose you to research, internationally or regionally, whatever it might be, and to present and to network with people. So yeah, that would be another thing I would want to know about.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, how about Carrie?
You know, this is a tough question. I think, yeah, I think luckily I came from a family, an extended family who a lot of them had advanced degrees. So, you know, these were conversations that I was very familiar with, and typically I would go in and I would know exactly what I should be looking for. So, you know, I knew to seek out people to do research. I knew to, you know, do some of those things. I will probably say you know, I guess my first you know, career out of undergrad was in marketing and PR, and I guess the only thing I would say is I wish somebody would have told me how much I would have hated that, because I wasted way too much time. I think like 4 or 5 years doing that. Got to the job I wanted, and I was like, this sucks. I hate it. And I think in that instance, it was there wasn't any really kind of real world application in that particular program, you know, going into that job. And, you know, it was just kind of a crapshoot. And that's why I switched teams. But yeah, that's it.
Very nice. Let's see, Paul.
Yes.
What do you wish someone had told you about college?
Well, that it would take a long time to get to the end of it. Because, probably because when you're on your own, there are times when you have to leave college and go out and make some money and then go back in again. So as a result, my BA took a lot longer than I expected. But anyway, you learn from experience. What can I say? It's best to have somebody support you when you're going to college. That's all I have to say.
Yes, yes. I understand. I feel like I've been in school for about 7 or 8 years. So, yeah, Barb's raising her hand, so we can appreciate that. Susan, what do you wish somebody had told you about college?
Well, to some extent, take advantage of the opportunities that are there. I guess I was thinking about some of the things that they.
Hello?
Oh. Hello? Someone saying hello?
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
I don't know who it is. Oh, is that August? I think we're losing you a bit, August. Go ahead, Susan.
You know, we're way up in Red Lake, so we're going to... Hello?
Yep. You can go ahead and sign off if you need to. Go ahead, Susan.
All right. Just take advantage of the things that I didn't know enough to take advantage of things.
Well, I wanted to say one last thing.
Go ahead, August. Hurry up. Say it. August? Hey.
We can't hear you. You're already you're too far up north. August, we can't hear you.
Time for August to get the boot.
Hang up. Hey, can somebody
told me that it's okay to take more than 4 years? I just wish to take more than 4 years.
August, we're gonna cut you off. We can't hear you. But yeah,
you can always like type it on the chat in case he wants to share something important.
That sounds good. Susan, please continue. I'm sorry.
I didn't know enough to take advantage of the things that were available, that were free at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I just did not, I didn't know enough. If there was a concert, try to go to it. I mean, I didn't know that this is a poobah coming and is going to play whatever instrument. I didn't know, or a world-class singer was coming by. I didn't know enough to take advantage of these things. I didn't know that I could go talk to the faculty and knock on their doors and try to talk to them on my own. I mean, there were just things that I didn't know. And I didn't come from a family where that was the kind of encouragement that you got. And I did go to a residential college. I lived in a dorm. I mean, and I was on a complete scholarship. I was one of 2 kids in the whole place that were on a complete scholarship. And in the opening convocation, they said, there are 2 people here who are on complete scholarships, and we give out scholarships based on how poor you are. So I knew right away I was next to the poorest kid in the whole place, or the poorest. But I just didn't know that there were things around that I could take advantage of. And I wish I had, because they were all sitting there free. And so that's why I do encourage students at Metro State, go to the writing center, go to the academic excellence, go to the psych lab, go to these things that are here that can give you help now. And if you need the help later on, you're gonna have to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the counseling center. Go to the counseling center right now and start taking advantage of that. You want some career advice, go get it now. And I just didn't know enough to do that. And so I graduated, and looking back, I see what was there that I didn't know was there.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Mark?
Oh, I just love Susan's answer. You know, I don't even know how I just sort of figured out to like go knock on faculty members' doors or just kind of wander the halls and ask them stuff. I mean, I learned so much that way. It's just incredible. But the way I was going to answer the question, I guess kind of circles back to the beginning. When I first started college, I wish someone had told me, you know, you got to really figure out how you're going to plan your life. You know, because you go from this, you're in high school, 8 hours a day, every day. And of course you have homework and you get your homework done and stuff. But I mean, it's totally different from, it's like, okay, I went to class for an hour, now I'm done. Is that it? Is that all? No, there's a lot of, you know, studying you have to do afterwards, and you have to plan the time. And it goes back to everything we talked about at the beginning of this, where you've got to really come up with a systematic plan, how you're going to study multiple times per week, schedule. And I wish someone would have told me all that. I mean, I mastered it by the end, right? I had my 22.5 hours of work so that I could pay my rent and have an extra $100 to eat. I went and did, scheduled out all my work and my classes and my time for research and blah, blah, blah. But, until then, I mean, it was horrible at the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I always say that half of the battle in college is just time management and like strategy.
Yeah.
Glenn, do you have anything?
Yeah, I guess I would say probably more than half the battle is time management, honestly. To build on what you said, I would say like 3/4 is time management. So, but I would, I guess I would say for me, like when I look back, I really thought I had, quite good in-class instruction. And I did, know my professor. I went to a place, a little place called Westminster College in Salt Lake City, which is, I don't know, kind of analogous to like Hamlin University here. So, I mean, I knew my professors, some of them reasonably well, but I didn't feel like I got really a lot of good guidance in terms of, I knew I wanted to go to graduate school, and in terms of like kind of the steps and the ways to go about that strategically into, kind of what the different options were, that I didn't maybe seek out the right people or something. So I had to do a lot more looking on my own, and I think I could have gotten a little more guidance to help me with that. So just to put it out there, I am the only resident faculty member who is has a background in clinical psychology. So if people are looking for, to go to grad school in one of those type of fields, counseling, clinical social work, clinical psychology, et cetera, if you have questions about that process, feel free to let me know, and I am happy to give you a little bit of advice, point you in the right direction, because I know for me that was pretty confusing, and I know that that's confusing for students now too, because there's a lot of different options. So just put myself out there as a resource to help with that.
Very nice. Thank you. All right. So are there any honors, research, or other programs that students may benefit from? And I'm going to start off with Carrie because I know she's running the Graduate with Distinction program. Carrie, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or will you talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the Graduation with Distinction program, you know, if you were listening a little bit earlier, when I said that, you know, my focus was really creating some of these opportunities for students. And so at most traditional universities, there are honors programs where students, you know, actually do their own independent research project across a couple semesters, build a good rapport with a faculty mentor, and, you know, present or even publish or things like that. And if you are thinking about graduate school, or if you are just curious about something that you're actually interested in researching, you know, getting involved in actually conducting your own research is a really good way to do that. So about 3 years ago, we did a test run of the Graduation with Distinction program with 3 students. And then finally it was approved by the administration as a real thing. So we are up and running. And so basically there is an application cycle. You'll probably see an email from me within the next couple days for fall applications. And it's not a lot above and beyond, you know, what your psychology major is. The idea is that you also, in addition, take the data analysis class. And there is a special section of the Psych 407 for the Graduation with Distinction students, because we focus more on, you know, grad school applications, you know, GRE, writing a CV, you know, all of those kinds of things. And I think one thing to really consider is when you go apply to graduate schools, you need 3 letters of recommendation. And at a commuter college like we are, I mean, there are students who literally don't know any of the faculty. And so how do you get a really good letter of recommendation if you've never had that kind of connection? So this is a really good way to kind of get involved, gain some visibility, get some information about, you know, the area of psychology that you are actually most interested in, and just give it a shot. Like, we also, we pay for your Psych-Hi dues. So if you are planning to apply for Psych-Hi, you know, admittance to this program covers your fees. Yeah, so I guess that's it in sum. You do a research project, it's pretty cool, and that's about it.
Nice. Mark, do you want to talk about Psych-Hi?
Sure.
Okay,
Actually, I was going to say that, you know, if people aren't up for all the Graduation with Distinction, because it does take a certain time, there are plenty of students who do research, you know, maybe just for a semester. Maybe they go to research methods and say, hey, I never thought it was interesting. It kind of is. Lots of times they'll work with a faculty member for 1 semester. I also have a course that runs usually in the fall and the spring, Psych 399, which is a group research internship. You know, you don't have to go through that course. There's other ways to get students registered if they want to do a research experience. You know, maybe even someone on the panel one time did this with me some time ago. You know, and also, you know, I mean, when I worked at a different place, not here, obviously, because we don't have PhD, I had 2 or 3 students who, you know, started working with me on research as an undergrad and ultimately got their PhDs with me. And I kind of was, oh, that's kind of scary, with them for a long time, I guess. You know, and I think it's a great experience. And I have just as many who got involved in the research, did it 1 semester and said, you know, I never want to do this again. And I think it's an interesting thing for students to get involved in because, you know, they really learn whether this is something I want to do, maybe my whole career, or no, not at all, never again. Okay, Sci-Chi. Who's the coordinator of Sci-Chi these days? Well, anyway, Sci-Chi is an international. Oh, you can do it. Actually, I've got to run. I've got a 4:30.
Thanks, Mark.
It's terrible, but thanks. And so someone else will tell you about Sci-Chi.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks everyone for coming, and
Bye-bye.
whoever's watching this on the recording.
Bye, Mark.
Carrie, are you going to talk about Sci-Chi?
I can. It's so it is one of the only recognized honor societies at Metropolitan State, and basically it is, you know, if you meet some criteria with GPA and some of those kinds of things, you are a member for life as an outstanding psychology student. And you don't have to be a major. You could be a minor in psychology and still apply and gain that recognition. The Sci-Chi network itself is actually pretty great for undergraduates. There's a lot of opportunities to, you know, get involved with Sci-Chi as far as, like, they have their own journal and newsletters. They have special, you know, sessions at larger conferences. So, you know, one of the conferences we often go to is the Midwestern Psychological Association in Chicago, and there is a half day that is dedicated to Sci-Chi presentation. So students who were inducted into Sci-Chi and presenting their work. And plus, it just looks really good on a resume or a CV or something like that. It is the closest thing to, I guess, a Greek system than we're going to get here at Metro State.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Great. Thank you. Susan or Glenn, do you want to talk about the application of knowledge? You guys want to fight over it?
I think Glenn left.
Did Glenn go? Okay, yeah, we're running late. Susan, you want to talk about application of knowledge, and then I think we might wrap up since we're.
Well, I'll give it from my perspective.
Yeah.
A little different from others, but application of knowledge was put into the psychology major to give psychology baccalaureate students kind of a leg up, or some way to put themselves out front and center if they are seeking employment, so that they would have real life, quote, real life experience, some special skills that they could bring forward, and something that they could put on their resume that would make them stand out from other thousands of bachelor students in psychology. And somehow over the years that has morphed into the idea of you have to have an internship. But it doesn't have to be an internship. It can be other ways where you can apply your knowledge. Carrie could be talking about some of the research opportunities that are available that would be suitable for application of knowledge. Of course, it could be a field placement where you're working in an agency. It could be some kind of special independent study related to a particular area of interest that like autism. I'm making that up, but just as an example of a topic where perhaps if you develop specialized knowledge and some kinds of skills, that could be something that you would put on your resume. So right now there is a course, I think it's 407. Barry, can you correct me on that? Where students are taking that opportunity that Glenn offers to try to figure out what's the best thing for them to do. And one of the things that I have turned my adult development and lifelong learning course into a way that students can use the application of knowledge theme in psychology. They can do that as a self-directed learning project in the 302 course, the adult development and lifelong learning. But it should be viewed as an opportunity for students to make themselves useful, stand out, or get into graduate school, or whatever their particular goals are for after they graduate. And that's my perspective. I think if you talk to Glenn, he might present more of a traditional perspective because he's very eloquent about how he presents all of the things in the class that he offers. So I think that's a 1-credit class that students take.
And I know
I think to add just one thing to that is simply that you can do more than one internship. And I think a lot of times students think, oh, well, I just need 3 credits of AOK and I'm done. But I have had so many students who benefited from maybe doing some independent research with one of our faculty members for maybe 3 credits, and then going to do an internship at like the Crisis Connection for another 3 credits. So, you know, the great thing about Metro is it offers the opportunities to really explore some of the different directions and gain some of those experiences. We're not going to force you to just do one and only one. I mean, if that is your jam, cool. But if you are juggling a couple of different options that you're really thinking about, like, explore them both, right?
I'm glad you said that, Carrie. I mean, I've had students in 302 who are taking 302 for application of knowledge, but they are also in an internship in an agency, and so they're having more than one internship type experience.
Awesome. So I think we're past 4:30. Yeah, so we're just past 4:30. So I think for time, we're gonna maybe skip our live Q&A. We'll make sure that we take any questions that anybody asked and get answers back to them. So make sure that you are filling out that attendance form, and we'll make sure to get you those answers. Otherwise, you can always reach out to anybody at Psych Club, or any of the professors here would be happy to help you. Lucia, do you want to do a quick wrap up, and then we will let everybody get back to their lives?
Yeah, thank you, Christy, for doing that. I think it was an amazing conversation. And yeah, the main point today was to get to know our instructors. I feel we got a great attendance today, so I'm super happy about that. And I think some of the takeaways were to get to know your instructor's teaching style and why they're interested in the subject they teach. And then for studying, we mentioned spacing out the time, having somebody else review your assignments before turning that in, working with classmates and groups. For communicating with teachers, we mentioned asking for feedback, asking questions about the subject, letting them know if you're struggling or if you need extra help. And for that, you can also find resources available at the Psychology Lab, the Center for Academic Excellence, the Psychology Club, and of course, your academic advisor, instructors, and classmates too. So I wanted to remind everybody to sign in if you haven't yet. And the recording of this event will be available on Engage soon too, for if you want to review something or for other people who couldn't be here today. But I think that's it for today. Thank you everybody for attending, and we had a great time, and we hope that you feel more confident to start your semester at Metro and be successful. So the best of luck to everybody. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Psychology Club. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you.